What's up? It's Todd from Concentrated Conversations. Sitting here with Thomas from Gable's Place. About to get into the whole vintage game. What's up, Thomas?
I'm doing well. I appreciate you for having me.
I'm happy to have you on, man. Like, I'm a lot older than you, so to me, vintage is like kind of my era, and I'm seeing all the stuff coming back around. And I thought it was just old, but then you and my son told me it's vintage.
Yep.
But anyway, tell me how you got into the whole vintage game.
Yeah, me and your son actually, Tyre, we used to thrift out throughout high school. And just once I got out of high school, I was still kind of thrifting on the side. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with school. And then one thing led to another. I started selling a lot more clothes once I realized there's profit. And then I ended up doing a pop-up in Atlanta called Junkyard.
Let me slow you down 1 second. Can you explain what thrifting is?
Yeah, thrifting is essentially just going to a thrift store, buying something, and for my goal was to sell it. A lot of people resell, some people collect, but what I do is reselling.
So when you go into, so that's going to like a Goodwill or something like that?
Yeah, it could be a Goodwill, it could be any other thrift store, it could be a flea market, garage sales.
And then how do you know if it's something of value, or do you just look for something you like?
There's a few ways to tell what is vintage or what is not vintage. A lot of it comes from experience, but like stuff like stitching, tag labels. There's various other ways of
Yeah, so
figuring out.
if I just go in off the street, I'm not gonna know if it's vintage or whatever.
Not necessarily. If there's a few like factors that, especially like new people to thrifting, there's some factors you can look at to see if it's vintage or not. But yeah, a lot of it does come from just experience. I've been doing it for about 2-3 years. I've been selling for 2-3 years, but I've been thrifting for since high school.
So what made you want to get involved in thrifting?
Honestly, so when I was going through college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do like outside of college, and I had no interest in college. I wasn't really getting great grades, and I honestly wasn't like too deep invested into thrifting until once I realized like people are interested in like the stuff I'm finding. So I'm like, okay. So I started selling stuff on Instagram here and there, and then over a few months, I eventually got into a few pop-ups in the local area. Now once I got into the pop-up, that's when I just started blowing up. That's when I met the community. There's a huge community in Atlanta. There's a huge community in just the United States. Each city has its own little like kind of clique, and it's really cool. It's really cool once I got into it.
But when you first started, was it for yourself?
Yeah, it was definitely for myself. I was just literally my first like few posts were definitely just my clothes I was selling.
And then people just showed interest. Like
yeah, exactly. And then one thing led to another, and I was trying to source different ways, sell different clothes, not just my clothes, and yeah, it's just blowing up from there.
Yeah, I see it super popular, and I've really had no idea. That's why it's good to have young people like you and my son around.
Yeah.
And now I know why you hang out, because you don't like school either.
Yeah.
And he didn't know what he was there for you. But that's neither here nor there. So how was it doing your first pop-up? Like, what was that experience like?
It was kind of hectic, because obviously everything you learn is from experience. Trial and error for sure when it comes to pop-ups, but it's pretty easy to get into the groove. You just set up stuff, wait for people to buy. I think the hardest part is just keeping everything organized, especially when it comes with money and how you want to take money and how you want to move money. Because if you're not LLC, that's a whole nother topic. It's just like you don't want to get into it.
So the most of your customers that come to buy stuff from your company, like the thrifting stuff, do they already know what they're looking for, or they're just...
It depends. There's markets for everything. Some people are just literally walking on the street and see a pop-up and go buy stuff. When I do pop-ups in Atlanta, most of the stuff that sells for me is like Atlanta-based stuff, just because that's what the people like.
Yeah.
But there definitely is there's markets for each type of vintage. Like for example, like people might go to a market looking for a specific like Harley tees, so to say, but. Yeah, there's a market. It depends on what market a specific person is in.
And when you say the Atlanta market, there's stuff that says Atlanta on it?
Yeah, like Atlanta-based teams, Georgia-based teams. That does well in the area. There's a lot of,
So how did you go about growing from, just starting to post your stuff on Instagram and people showing interest, to the pop-ups, to where you are now? Like, what was the process?
It was really just trying to stay consistent. Because I forgot where I seen it, but someone was telling me like if you stay consistent, whatever you're doing, you're bound to do well in it. Because if you just post, I chose to keep posting consistently. I try to post like when I first started doing this, I was posting like 2-3 times a day, everything for sale. I was just trying to move product, trying to get my stuff out there. And then I try to do pop-ups consistently too, because once I do pop-ups, you know, money flows, and also it's a great way to network and meet different clientele.
So with the pop-ups and the people you meet when you're doing these pop-ups, the community you're talking about, do they give you advice on like you can source your stuff here, or
it depends. It depends. That's kind of a when it comes to trying to find places to source. A lot of people, which is understandable, and a lot of people in the community, they don't try to give up free information unless you become like pretty close with them or something, build a relationship, and they'll help you out. But for the most part, people try to, you try to get it where, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, they're trying to get you to learn yourself. They're not going to give you a free game, because it's essentially, even though you're homie, you might be homies with someone, it is competition.
Yeah, and you still got to put in the work. Like nobody wants to give up the plug.
Yeah.
That kind of defeats the purpose of business.
And it's only getting more popular too. So if I were to give out business to people, it's even harder for me to source. So it doesn't really make sense.
And you saying that when you go to source these things, when you go to these different places, like, do you know when they're coming in, or you just
it depends on it depends on the location. Like, a lot of people who do what I do, they source through different like thrift stores, and one of the most popular ones is, I don't know if
don't
you
name
know,
it. Don't name it.
I can name it because it's very popular. I don't mind naming it, just because there's not even any in like the closest. What I'm gonna say is there's these Goodwill outlets, which are like bins, and it's like a bunch of like it's like clothes that people didn't buy from the rack stores or just donations in the area, and they dump it in bins, and instead of selling it per item, they sell it per pound. And that's a lot of people do that to get a product, but the closest one from Atlanta is like 2+ hours away. So I don't mind telling people about that, but yeah, that's a good way of people go there to source. And
so do you travel to source your stuff, or a combination of in the area and somewhere else?
I travel. But most of the time I try to stay local. I might travel once or twice a week, go 2 hours away, but I try to stay local, just, keep in mind on gas mileage and shit.
Gotcha. And what was that feeling like, when someone first offered to pay you something for your items you were listing?
It was crazy, because I feel like looking at the product I was selling at the time compared to the product I'm selling now, because I wasn't just selling vintage when I first started, I was just selling anything I found in a thrift store. And some of that stuff, I'm gonna be real, I probably would not pick up again. Like today, if I went to a thrift store, some of the stuff I would not just pick up, because I was selling stuff for really cheap. So, but yeah, first sell, I honestly don't remember what it was, but one thing led to another. So
that gave you the confidence that you can do this and build on it. So when you say the stuff that you bought the first time, you wouldn't necessarily buy now. Like, how did you go about getting like your price points? Because one of the things I think when you first start a business, especially a small business, hustle, whatever you want to call it, one of the toughest things is trying to figure out, you don't want to charge people too much, but you don't want to charge people too little. Yeah. You want it to be valuable for your time, and to be a real business. So how'd you go about like getting your pricing and things?
Really just trial and error. Yes, because the amount of times I've sold something way higher than or not that I sold something, but I was asking way higher price than I should have. I've definitely done that before, and I definitely, like when I was younger, I definitely would sell stuff for cheap that could go for like a lot more than I was expecting. But it's just really just trial and error. You got to learn the market. Some of the market is just like you can sell based off your price. If you're in Atlanta, Atlanta tees can go from anywhere $10 to $30 based off how you want to sell it. So if you know your clientele and you know the market, specifically like pop-ups, once you learn the clientele for the pop-ups, like the people that come to them, you kind of learn how to curate specifically for those clientele. And like I said, just trial and error.
I mean, like you said, I know it's growing and it's only going to get more popular, I would think. So what's next for you?
Right now, my end game is definitely I would love to establish a storefront, just to be able to have a place where I can go every day and bring product that I would like to sell to people. And, being able to have a spot that people can come to every day, or a certain amount of days a week. And but as of right now, I'm just kind of trying to stay consistent with just getting product, flipping it. Some product I try to keep, I hold, Because some shirts you can even look at it as like stock, where like the value will go up like in a matter like since Corona started, the value for a lot of shirts have doubled, quadrupled, and even profited even more. So it just kind of depends on what product specifically I want to sell.
So what is the range? Well, based off what you said, this might not be a fair question, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. What is the range from, like, say I want a vintage T-shirt, I want a vintage Atlanta T-shirt. Yeah. What is like the range I might pay for something like that?
Yeah, so
for
like
something nice. Like,
yeah. So for specifically Atlanta stuff, you can, for a good solid like T-shirt, which is that's what a lot of people try to buy in the vintage game, is just T-shirts. Like obviously pants and other stuff's popular, but T-shirts are the number one. And if you want a good Atlanta tee, it ranges mostly like anywhere from $15 to $40, depending on the person selling it or the graphic on the T-shirt, obviously.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, for Atlanta specifically, I would say like $15 to $40.
And what do you think is the what makes your end goal a storefront as opposed to like just continuing what you're doing, selling online, maybe getting a website or something?
I mean, everyone's motive is different. I would like to have a place just to bring product, because one of the ways I like sourcing is doing buyouts on people, and it's just like going up to meeting up with people or just going to where they stay at and just doing bulk deals with them. And I would like to have a place so people can see how I curate specifically, and I guess just having a place to call home in a way.
And you could design it yourself.
That
type of thing.
Yeah, because you can always I can do what I'm doing now, and still have a storefront. I feel like
Yeah, you can do both.
Yeah. So.
Well, thank you for all the free game on the thrift game, because I really have no idea, even though I do feel like it comes from my era. And let me ask you this, though, before we close. Like, what do you like to do when you're not thrifting? Like, what are your hobbies?
I'm a homebody, really. So I like staying at home. I mean, I like hanging out with the homies, like, Tyre. And I like going out, definitely hitting the city every other weekend or so. But I'm a homebody, so I love being at home, just kicking it.
Well, that's probably why you're good in the thrift game. You can stay home and do all your research and get all your stuff together. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm a homebody too.
Yeah.
So, all right, Thomas. Let's see an example of your product so that people can see exactly what we're talking about.
I got you. Yeah, for sure. So I brought a few items. I brought one of my most popular products are just T-shirts. People love T-shirts. Can't go wrong with T-shirt. And T-shirt, one of the coolest ones I got in the bag. Some example is Mike Tyson Holyfield from '96.
That's nice. That's
nice. This one's crazy. There's people like.
How much would a T-shirt like that go for?
I haven't checked the market for this one recently, but last time I checked it went for about $200. This one's definitely a higher end shirt. I got stuff in the bag that ranges from like $20 to $40, but yeah, that one particularly goes for a little more bread just because it's a Mike Tyson rare. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I brought actually some sweatshirts as well. For example, this 1989 Rolling Stones.
Nice.
This is tour merch from the actual when they came over to USA, the American tour.
All right.
And one of my best sellers is also NASCAR gear. People love, even like obviously people who don't like NASCAR necessarily, but they love the graphics because something like this is just.
That's almost like graffiti a little bit.
Yeah, this thing is insane.
So even people that don't like NASCAR rock something like that.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's kind of similar, like how people be wearing fitteds of teams they not necessarily care for.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
Yeah, same type deal where it's just like they mess with the graphics, so why not wear the shirt? Jimi Hendrix shirt. I think that was pretty sweet. Just got this one recently. This is from 1999. Not obviously from the era, but it's technically considered vintage in the community.
I don't think that Jimi Hendrix would be popular, is it?
Oh yeah. That one goes for about like anywhere from $80 to $120, depending on the seller. There's some more random stuff. Like I said earlier in the podcast, Atlanta, Georgia related stuff is my best seller. Some examples of this is like good Brave stuff. Brave stuff usually sells really well for me. This is from '95. That was pretty cool. Definitely got some more like Atlanta Olympic stuff. Probably not my top seller. People love the Olympic stuff, especially being from Atlanta.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's super nostalgic for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech stuff, more Atlanta. This one's cool. This one's from Alabama. You ever heard of Foot Wash?
Nah, what is that?
It was like, I'm not sure exactly what went on and what. It was more like a party, like a street party, kind of like, you know, Freaknik.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Freaknik of Alabama type deal.
Oh,
Football,
it's
yeah.
football.
Yeah, I honestly would like to do more research on what went on. I'm sure there's a bunch of documentary about it. You know, people went crazy, especially for like Freaknik. I'm sure you've heard about
Freaknik in Alabama. That seems like a whole lot of jail sentences.
But yeah, I just got a bunch of random teas in here.
Yeah, I don't want to make you pull out the whole bag, but at least have an example of some of your merch. That's super dope, especially the NASCAR thing, which I never thought.
Yeah, NASCAR definitely sells for sure.
Yeah, like I don't know who's designing that, but so is that NASCAR shirt? Is that old too? That's like an older shirt.
Yeah, so this one specifically, I'm not sure if it's dated, but it's Dale Earnhardt, and it's from the tag and the era of when Dale was racing. You can tell this is the early '90s, mid '90s. Because as you know, I don't know if you know, but Dale Earnhardt was one of the ones who passed away towards the end of the, I think it was like '94 or something. I could be wrong. I don't know exactly when he died, but he died in the '90s from an accident.
Oh, I really didn't even.
Yeah.
Now that you say that, I remember it, but I couldn't remember.
I mean, yeah.
I didn't know what his name was.
Yeah, so that one specifically is, I believe, is early '90s.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Thomas. Appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, the merch is super dope. Thank you for your time,
Yes,
Thomas.
Sir.
Tell the people where they can look at your catalog and everything.
If you're trying to find me, I'm on Instagram. My Instagram username is @GablesPlace, GABLESPLACE. I'm on IG. I'm not on Twitter, but yeah, if you look me up on IG or even as a Safari, you might be able to find me.
Okay, cool. Well, this is Concentrated Conversations. You're now hip to the thrift game due to Thomas here. So, Thomas, good luck in the future, man.
Appreciate you.
Thanks for coming on the show.
I appreciate you, man.
Yeah,
Yep.
likewise.